when I think about the regulatory outlook for healthcare, I'm impressed by how favorable things look compared to years past. And I say this principally because of the losses that the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission have endured in courts in trying to block healthcare mergers and other types of mergers. Now, I used to be at the FTC, and I would say at that time those losses were very disheartening. But now that I'm outside, I look at them and I think, a window of opportunity here. You can do all kinds of mental juggling when you need to. Those court losses, I think, represent some favorable dealing of cards to the merging parties. Particularly, not so much clearly at the end if you have to litigate, but even before then, when you're in front of the agencies and how those deals get reviewed by the agencies, always in the back of your mind, I think, as a litigator, and particularly for the government, you have to think, well, what's the end game? The end game is, can I show my case successfully in court? And knowing that courts have been less receptive to the kinds of stories, anti-competitive stories, that the government has been presenting, I think puts the government somewhat at a disadvantage, comparatively speaking, to other times. And I think that has practical implications for deal people when they go into the agencies on three fronts. First, during the course of the investigation then, I think it gives you somewhat of a leg up with respect to the scope of document requests and data requests that the government can ask you for. I think it helps you a lot in terms of speed, the speed by which you can get a deal through. Second, I think it plays a major role in the kind of relief that the government might be able to get. Divestiture, in other words, you could play a tougher line, I think, in terms of divestitures, perhaps not giving away as much to the government in the course of a settlement discussion as you might have otherwise, or perhaps even because of some recent decisions, even within the Federal Trade Commission, divestiture may not be the appropriate remedy. We'll see. That's still being litigated, particularly in the hospital context, and we'll see what the Federal Trade Commission has to say about that. But then ultimately, if you're thinking about the kinds of terms that you're getting, and if you're not getting a favorable audience with the Federal Trade Commission or the Department of Justice for your case, I think you have to keep in the back of your mind that there is perhaps a more favorable forum out there. And you don't have to deal just with the agencies. Perhaps you might want to keep it as part of your negotiating strategy to say, I'll take my chances with the courts because those courts have shown a far more willingness to second guess the competitive theories and the competitive logic of the various agencies and are far more receptive to what the merging parties have to say about what's pro-competitive or at least not anti-competitive about their deals than historically. So I think on balance, the courts have dealt some favorable cards to the merging parties, and I think it should be very much kept in the forefront of your mind as you go through your deal-making thoughts and analysis and strategy.